Hi, Devjani. Hi, Philip.
Hello, Pradeep. I will also turn my cam, or what is the status now?
Hello, sir.
Devjani, you'll take care of when Russell comes, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, done. Philip, thank you so much for being here. I'm from TiE University, and Devjani and Darshak, my colleagues, will be assisting you. Yeah.
Great.
So we have sent out the mailers to around 2,300 plus students, but we don't know what the numbers are going to be there. So I think you will be able to get a judgment in the next 10 minutes and then plan accordingly. Yeah. Okay.
Great. That sounds perfect. So I'm ready to answer some of the questions already on the chat, and hopefully also like during the talk there will be some space to provide some additional comments in case some stuff are not clear.
Perfect.
So
Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you too. Bye. Just a short on this. I just got a message from Raz. He should be here any minute. Sorry for a bit of delay.
Great. Thank you.
So Russ is on his way. He should be ready any minute. Sorry for the short hiccups at the beginning. There were some issues with his computer, but it should be fixed soon.
Yeah, it's completely okay, Philip. Like we are also waiting the students to be joining in. We don't have a great crowd till now.
Great,
Yeah,
thanks.
but Devjani, we can start, I think, as Pradeep sir has mentioned, and we can
Great.
send out the recorded session even if the crowd is less.
Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning, Russ.
Very good morning.
How are you? I gotta change my background here. Give me a minute. Yeah. I've been having various problems here this morning with between the internet and I think I'm in good shape at the moment. Let me bring up my background. Choose virtual background.
Yes, indeed. We can hear you clearly. We can see you clearly. So you are really in a very good shape. Not to worry. Need not to worry. My name is Devjani, and I am a co-host for this session. So let me introduce Mr. Rachel Faustino today. Students, hello everyone. So before going ahead and introducing our speaker of the day, I want to let you know, Mr. Russ, all the students who will be joining today's session, they have actually selected Algorand's business challenge on a TiE hackathon. Excuse me for not opening up my camera as I'm working from home and network is really low today.
No problem. I need a couple minutes here. I just rebooted everything. So I just got to start up all my demos. I'll be ready to go. So we need you to do a little song and dance for a couple minutes for me. Okay.
Great. No problem. Till the
Okay. I
time,
appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I should be ready in a couple minutes.
Sure. So till the time, let me introduce you to the crowd.
Okay.
So guys, Mr. Faustino is an MBA with concentration in information system from University of Hartford. He has more than 25 years of software development experience. And Mr. Faustino is a technical evangelist at Algorand and CEO of Faustino Brothers INC. He also heads up Rush Toolset Network Inc. with Internet TV, and he is the creator of Rush Toolset Developer Seminar Series. Another feather on his cap is he is also an author of a book, Azure and Xamarin Forms. He has a passion for conveying relevant, current, and future software development technologies and tools through live seminars, teaching, and internet video productions. I must say, Mr. Russ, it's a unique and wonderful passion. Russ heads up a user group in Tampa, Florida area, mobile application development Tampa. And as a person, he also helps fixing virus problems in neighborhood, right? He has enlightened, entertained, and educated over 1 million developers in his career and is a recipient of the INETA Lifetime Achievement and Microsoft MVP 2013-18 awards. We are truly honored to have you today, Mr. Russell Faustino, and lucky to be a part of your session. So just waiting to start over. I hope some more students will be joining us.
Let me get the sandbox up here. I'm almost there. Another minute, please.
No issues. It's from last 1.5 years, we all are used to this, Mr. Russ. So
Yeah, I know it. Isn't that something? It's like the timing on this stuff is amazing. Everything was working fine, and then all of a sudden this morning it stopped. So I had actually called the cable company to reboot my modem, and I'm actually running off of my phone internet right now, which is a little bit slow, but I'm just trying to test a couple demos here first before we get going to make sure everything is back to normal. Okay, and this is oh, it's not quite up yet. Okay, almost there, almost there. I think there you go. Hey, Philippe, you can why don't you introduce yourself too, because you're going to be helping out with the Q&A, and that'll give me enough time then stretch it out. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So hello everyone, my name is Philip. So I joined the Algorand team as an ambassador a couple of weeks ago, and it's really, I have been, even though I've been following the path of Algorand for quite many months already because of my research interest. So my main focus of the current activities I'm doing is actually to do a research on various distributed systems. Mainly, I'm actually a PhD student, and fortunately, I'm lucky enough that the research itself is somehow combined with also like these new technologies which are springing, and especially Algorand is really interesting with the technology which I can see behind it. And I'm happy to be basically part of the Algorand team and try to also enrich the community by developing certain tutorials and be part of the big future tech which I think Algorand is trying to proceed. So in my free time, I also like hacking stuff. So Algorand tutorials and development parts are really great. And today I will be helping out with Russ to answer some of your inquiries in the chat. And hopefully we will have a smooth run and you will enjoy the demo.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Philip.
Well, the good news is I got internet now with my phone, and I think we're up and running there. Just one more check, and I think I'll be ready to go here. Let's see here. And then I'll start sharing my screen, and we'll be on our way. Getting a remote and closed connection without response. Stop that one. Try this one. Frustrating. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get going here. Let me go ahead and share the screen and we'll be ready to rock and roll here. Okay, I need you to enable me as a co-host or let me present the screen, please.
You can present your screen, I guess. 1 second.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing. That's what I'm getting. So the easiest way is just to make me a co-host.
Yeah, now please try.
Try it now.
Yeah, now you can.
Oh, good. We got it. And bring up my deck here.
Great, we can see it.
Yeah, we can.
You see my PowerPoint? Very good. All right, very good. Rock and roll, we're ready to go. I apologize for this tardy start. I did start really early, just to let you know, just to make sure things were okay, but it's taking me this long to get this thing figured out. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get going with a great session here we got lined up. We got about an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to deliver a session here to get you to know a lot about blockchain. First thing I want to do is a couple poll questions. So if you can go out to this site right here, this slido.com, or zoom in on that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring that up, and I'm going to start a poll in 1 second. I'd like to get your experience level on using Algorand and blockchain in general. And let's go ahead and log in here, and then we should be all set. And I'll go ahead and bring the poll up momentarily. Okay, here we go. We're going to bring this up right here. So once again, there is the QR code. So get your phones, go ahead and zoom in on that and bring up the site. So let's go ahead and launch the first poll. I got three questions for you. So the first one is, are you a developer? Yes, no, and sometimes. So let's see what we got here. Our responses. And again, the QR code is up there in the left corner. Ryan, you able, or Philip, you able to get at that okay?
Yes, so I also have it open so I can see it. I have the slide open on the other window, yeah.
All right, did you get to do a response? Because I'm not seeing, oh, there we go. I see one coming in now.
I have now
there
it
we
down,
go.
yeah.
All right, anybody else? Okay. 2 people voted. How many people we got on right now? All right. I'm sure we're not getting any more responses here. We're going to assume most of you are on that one. Let's go to the next question. So this one I really need you to answer if you can. If you what's your experience level with Algorand blockchain? Brand new to blockchain, period. Some experience with any blockchain, and some experience with Algorand, and then more than 6 months with Algorand. So those are the choices. And go ahead and put a choice in there.
Just to also ask, I tried to open the streaming link and I'm not sure if it's only issue on my side, but when I try to copy it and open it, it's telling that the live streaming isn't available right now. I'm not sure if it's only issue on my side or if it's the same issue in general.
That's good to know. It might be related to my internet problems, me running on the mobile device. So I'm going to thank you very much. I'm just going to end that and we'll get back to the show.
No,
okay.
I think this is the part of maybe the Johnny maybe sharing or streaming the part of the Zoom directly on YouTube, because when I open the YouTube link, I'm not sure if the stuff are being streamed well or not.
Thanks, Philip. I do want to introduce you as well. So, and please type your questions in the chat window today or question window throughout the session, and they'll be answered. We have Algorand Ambassador Philippe Resbeck will be helping out with the Q&A today. So thanks once again, Philippe. All right, so new to Algorand blockchain development. So one of the first things I know when I first started using blockchain was to determine what are the possible solutions for blockchain. What kind of apps can I build? And this is great when you're going into a, kind of a hackathon environment. You would definitely want to get some ideas. So we'll take a look at that, as well as what are the features for developers? What's my toolbox? How can I get started? How do I actually build solutions? These are all common questions you have once we're getting started with Algorand blockchain development. And if you're new to blockchain development, we've got several videos up on the Algorand YouTube channel. But we got you covered here because we're going to do a little bit of blockchain basics as part of this first section too today. So what we have here is use cases first. The props network is a very, very big network and use case for Algorand in particular, right? So what props network does is it turns app users into loyal financial stakeholders. The props platform will abstract blockchain technology for complexity of apps. In other words, they have widgets and things of that nature to build iOS, Android apps, as well as web application widgets. And there's a simple API as well. It's basically a loyalty program. You can incorporate this loyalty program into any application that you're writing. It's SEC approved token and ecosystem for token holders. Now the word token there is key, right? That you have the ability to create your own token or asset, is what we call them in Algorand. And as such, you can do, a Rust coin or Philippe coin or whatever. And so it is a lot more information can be found about this props network at that YouTube link. And I will provide a link to this deck at the end. So you'll have all of these URLs. And then Philippe, also, you have the PowerPoint, so feel free to post in any links as appropriate as we go along into the chat window for the folks, okay?
Sounds great.
Okay, great, thanks. Second use case here is Circle in Coinbase. This is the central consortium. This facilitates payments and treasury infrastructure for the internet. They accept payments, they send payouts globally. Globally is a very cool word too, right? So, in today's day and age, there's over 2 billion people on this planet that do not have access to modern financial services. And that's because so many middlemen are needed in the banking industry to do transactions between banks. One thing you'll find out about blockchain, it reduces the middleman scenario, and it's really the transaction is between the sender and the receiver. This is how it should be. It's very clean, very easy, and what that will facilitate then are global payouts. So Circle took advantage of that, right? And it leverages traditional payments. So they'll do traditional payments through banks, but also through blockchain infrastructure. And lately now banks are also taking in crypto assets as transactions too. So it's a win-win all the way around. And then you got global, scalable, and efficient applications here with Circle, who's made up of Coinbase and Centra. All right, USDC is the fastest growing stablecoin, which they have. And there's a lot more than that actually right now in circulation. And let me explain this for a second. So those that are brand new to blockchain, one of the problems with blockchain is the fact that the native crypto assets, like in our case in Algorand, it's the algo. And then there are other ones like Bitcoin and Ethereum and a few others. And the problem is that they fluctuate a lot. And so it's very difficult to do transactions. One day it's $2, the next day it's $1 or whatever. You get the idea there. So one thing to help remedy that was to create a stable coin or an asset that's tied to the US economy. So the value of it is goes up and down with the economy, which is a lot smoother than the traditional assets that are used in cryptocurrency. So it makes sense, right? So this is a great way to facilitate transactions are through stablecoins. And I've been reading about more and more stablecoins coming out with various economies that it will match with. So, but that's the idea. All right, and then stable coins and some food for thought. You know, what does this facilitate? Well, it facilitates assetization of ownership, right, of the assets. So, for example, you know, could the small businesses that list on Yelp or the contributors who power its ratings own shares in the company? Well, it might be now possible. Same with Reddit, right? Can Reddit reward its moderators with ownership? And how about Airbnb? You know, gives a host equity when they become superhost. You know, should Uber drivers own a piece of the business? You know, Uber's profits are exponential almost. You know, whereas the drivers are linear. So when the employees have a piece of the pie, they're all of a sudden a lot more serious and a lot more gung-ho about the success of the company that they're working for. And we're once you see a good idea in life, a lot of times it resurfaces as another kind of variation. Well, this is like the new way to do like stock options, right? It might be through splitting up assets through ownership. So pretty cool things. Just a little bit of food for thought there down the road of what could be happening in the near future. So there's other use cases. So let's go over. It's not just the couple that I showed here. The idea is that blockchains are indeed tamper-proof. So any application that requires an audit trail, a blockchain solution is ideal for that. This information was from the China blockchain report. So the China ministry is now using blockchain. It's not the future, it's here now. And about 10 years ago, there was a big misuse of funds on one of the earthquakes that hit that area. And now they got exact tracking of where the money's coming in from, where it's going to. So life is good there. So this improves the transparency of social services, and you got that audit trail built right in. Another thing, voting, right? So the idea is a blockchain is like an immutable ledger, and there are copies of this ledger throughout the entire globe or planet. Everybody's got a copy of it, and once a block is written to the chain, it's like a read-only write once ledger. There are hashing algorithms between each block that can easily detect tampering. So these are things that would make it ideal for like voting. So once that vote is cast and it's legit, it goes written to the blockchain. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's a done deal, and you can move forward. Healthcare, another thing. Anytime you go to a new doctor, I got a new doctor appointment on Monday. So what do they sell you? They send you a big like pamphlet. You got to fill out all this information about your healthcare. It takes you a half hour to do this. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just hit a button and download that information and give it to the doctor's office? You should be in control of your own records is really the bottom line there. But not only that, and beyond the half hour time it takes me to fill out this information, you might have a need where you have an individual that's incapacitated, can't speak, can't write. Maybe they're in an accident. And really, this healthcare information is needed at the site where you have all these medical professionals. And that's really the goal here. So this would be another great example of having this data available to you globally. Automotive industry, another big area. We're seeing any supply chain type solution where you got multiple checkoffs along the way. These are things that really work really well in terms of a solution. Because again, that check off or going from point A to point B to point C is immutable on the blockchain. And not only that, what we're starting to see is integration with IoT, right? So you have the details of the wear and tear and the spare parts now from sensors that are in the engine, right? Writing to the blockchain. This is very, very cool. And this is, what we're starting to see happen, across the globe. But I tell you what, the biggest area for blockchain is in DeFi or distributed finance. Apps are exploding. on the blockchain with in 2020 and 2021. You take a look in 2020, for example, and the source of this is this Masario.io. It was a crypto thesis. Anybody can go out there, sign up for it. This report is free. That's a very good homework assignment reading. It's about 130 pages long, but that'll really give you a good background on the industry in total. And so $1 trillion in cumulative blockchain network value. That's something, not something to sneeze at, let me tell you. And then look at this, 2021, it's expected to go up to $3 trillion forecast in the blockchain industry, which is just amazing. So you got a lot of Algorand DeFi examples as well with IDEX and Polkadot and stable coins like Tether. We mentioned USDC already. These are all examples of DeFi. And we have many more use cases out there. So if you really want to get an idea of the type of applications that are available, just go out to our use case site under algorand.com and you can read up on a lot of these. You know, asset block is another one, dividing up assets like hotels, for example, to multiple people. World Chess is on board. Planet Watch is on board. Republic. So there's a lot of applications out there. In fact, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You look at, we've been around for 2 years, and after 2 years, there's over 500 companies now leveraging the Algorand blockchain. You know, one of like three blockchains that with the top 2 stable coins, USDC and USDT. So we're a real player in the industry, and we got a great community that's being built around Algorand's infrastructure, including over 500 ambassadors. We're honored to have Philippe here today as one of those 500 representing the ambassador crew. All right, and then finally, just a few quotes on the proven success here. You know, with the excellent documentation, you'll see our developer portal. You know, Manny got, you know, blockchain data in just a couple of days. You know, they were up and running, and they love the developer advocate team. I had to put that in there, you know, because I'm on the developer advocate team. So that was pretty cool. And also in the upper right there, you see Jeremy, a CEO and chairman of Circle, right? The transaction fees, we didn't even talk about this yet, are 1/20th of a cent. Are you kidding me? With the ability to increase that tenfold. And then there's speed and scalability, ensure users won't get caught up in the slow and delayed transactions that dominate so much of the current digital asset landscape. So high throughput and fast transaction rate is what the takeaway is there. Bottom left corner, Algorand's performance and capabilities are unmatched in this space. Again, performance is key. And then Bloomy over there in the bottom right, other blockchain platform transaction costs are very expensive and the speed is painfully slow. Algorand's game changer. So it kind of gives you the lay of the land. Any questions, Philip, at all to share there before we get into the basics here?
I think so far everything is clear. So there was a request regarding the link for the slides. So I already shared that one, so people can already download the slide deck and can have a look on the links in meanwhile. And
Perfect.
I think otherwise we can proceed with the
nice work. Thank
basics.
you. Appreciate it. Okay, let's get into this section here. Again, the assumption is at least a few of you are fairly new to blockchain. For those that have done it for a while, this will be quick. All right, so we'll just go through this, and it's always good to have a refresher anyway. So this is Algorand's basically any blockchain. You know, you have blocks that have a one-way hash, and they're added one by one to the network. Some of you that maybe are familiar with other like blockchains may have heard of things like forks or proof of work. We don't use either of those on the Algorand blockchain. And proof of work is a very non-green approach, right? You have very powerful, expensive machinery competing against each other to solve a very complex math problem, and it wastes a ton of electricity. And not only that, it takes about 10 minutes to burn a block. Ethereum's that's over like in you know, Bitcoin. Ethereum was in that boat for a while. Now they got another version of the blockchain, but still it's like 15-20 seconds. You know, and really, and that doesn't really facilitate point of sale transactions. So how does Algorand do it? Well, the Byzantine agreement. So those that are familiar, not familiar with the Byzantine Empire in days of old, that's what the story is based on. You have a lot of generals out there, and they have to coordinate with each other. So whether to attack or not, on the empire. And how do they do it? Well, they have messengers that will run or walk or crawl right between the generals and communicate. That troop that I just came from, they're stocked, ready to go. They have all the, personnel. They got all the ammunition. How are you? And then he goes to the next one and the next one. But problem is, anything can happen along the way. Those messengers could get colds. Those messengers can get corrupted. Those messengers could get delayed due to weather. So if you don't have a consensus, the mission can fail. If you don't have all the information across all of the generals, then you're in trouble. Because if you go to attack and some of these groups don't have the troops or the necessary equipment, you are definitely going to fail. So Silvio Macaulay, founder of Algorand, also Turing Award winner for his work in hashing algorithms, came up with the VRF, which is a verifiable random function, and determined you really don't need everyone to participate. What you need is a representative sample. And also, this really lends itself to the cost. You can have quadratic equations in terms of the cost, where you get 10 people, would be like 10 squared, but you get into like 1 million people and it's like 1 million squared would be the cost. So it's very inefficient to get a complete consensus of everybody, but really just use statistics and get a representative sample. And that's really what it's all about. So we use that when we go to build blocks and add them to the chain. And this is also called the consensus protocol, right? Where you have, it's a pure proof of stake is the name of the consensus protocol. And what we have is a simple random, committee, all users, and then the committee agrees on the block of transaction. Every member verifies his transactions and signs it digitally. What kind of logic goes in there? Well, does the account have enough money to send the proposed amount of transaction assets? And is there any double spending going on? Things like that are handled by the protocol. And then the block, is all good, is added to the chain, and then each block then has associated transactions with it. So if you're looking at different record types, on the ledger, really you've got the block, you've got the transactions that are on the block, and then transactions are between what? Between accounts. Then the accounts have assets that might be associated with them, as well as applications. It's not really complex, a blockchain. It's like 5 or 6 different record types on the ledger. So with that said, and just rinse and repeat, do it again, and the next block is done. And in Algorand, this happens every 5 seconds or under. Great video on the network on this protocol, the peer proof of stake protocol. I encourage you to run this. It's about 5 minutes long as a homework assignment for those that are brand new to blockchain. I think you'll get a much better idea on that. And then finally, we get into this thing about permissioned versus permissionless and public versus a private. So basically what you have here in the public version, anyone can join, read, and write with the blockchain network. So sometimes blockchains that are public are referred to as permissionless blockchains. On the other hand, you have a private blockchain, which is permissioned. So a permissioned blockchain is known as a private blockchain, and vice versa. They're interchangeable. And restrictions are placed on who is allowed to participate in the network. So you have, you're allowed in selected transactions. Things like authentication are required. So let's see how that impacts the different types of applications that can be created with these various types of blockchains and combinations thereof. In the upper right corner, what you have are currencies that are betting. You got betting, you got video games, you got supply chain. In the bottom right for private and open. But let's take a look at these a little bit more deeper, right? So the public and open ones, currencies, betting, video games, anybody can get at that. It makes sense. You go to the upper left, you got public and closed. So things like voting, you want it to be public because at some point you want to display the voting results. But you want it closed because you don't want those displayed until that point in time comes. Understand? So it's kind of a mix. And then private and closed in the bottom left, that's for, the most secure type applications, law enforcement, military, tax returns. And then private and open, again, supply chain. You want checkoffs, but not necessarily. You want it open to a certain extent, but you do want it private to a certain extent as well. Well, what Algorand facilitates is the ability to do all of this by putting a layer 2 solution in place. And by layer 2 versus layer 1, this is what I mean. Layer 1 is built right into the blockchain protocol, and we have several features available. I'm going to go over those that are built right in. But layer 2 is what you do is you build that application, for example, maybe with an SDK or something like that. And then what that will facilitate is the ability for you to you as a developer are responsible for the authentication and access to the blockchain, providing the privacy. So you're moving that off the blockchain, off of layer 1, and you're moving that into applications where you can provide the capability. So you really can build any type of solution in any one of these with Algorand. And what we facilitate to do that with, there's a note field on transactions. It's free form. You can put any data structure that you want in there. Also, we have links like asset URL links. We also have smart contracts that can be utilized to provide logic to facilitate all these different types. So a lot of different ways you could do it, but I just wanted to clarify that because I know that was always a question I had when I was starting out with that. So what it can do then is go right into the layer 2 features now, layer 1 features. There's 4 that I like to call out here. Is Algorand standard assets. So this is the token thing we had talked about up front. Also, you have atomic transactions, and what those are the ability to wrap together several pieces of logic into one big transaction. If any piece fails, then the whole thing will fail. It's kind of analogous for anybody who's familiar with SQL Server database approach. We have something called transactions in SQL Server, where you have several of those transactions can be bound into one big transaction. And if any of those fails, the database gets rolled back to the way it was beforehand. Same kind of analogous concept here with atomic transactions. Also, atomic transactions are the secret sauce many times of tying together many technologies and many aspects on blockchain for a complete solution. So that one there is pretty important. And then also you got Algorand smart contracts to provide logic-based abilities on whether a chain block gets written to the chain or not. And rekeying is something we'll talk about, the ability to separate the private and public keys and reuse a different key for those purposes. So again, to wrap up the blockchain pure proof of stake protocol, true scalability over 1,000 transactions per second, under 5-second block times. Those numbers are getting better too. Infrastructure longevity, a lot of great SDKs, a lot of updates and upgrades we've already done. So these are all rolled out. These all go out with protocol updates, and it's really very, very smooth, actually. No downtime whatsoever there. And then you also have technical flexibility with all the SDKs, transaction certainty, right? You do a transaction, there's no forking, there's no question, that transaction is done. And platform extensibility, as well as very energy efficient. It's very lean and mean. You can actually run a node on a Raspberry Pi. That's how efficient it is. So very green approach and cost efficient, like we saw in one of those quotes up front. Less than a penny per transaction, and really does provide you true security. The hashing algorithms between blocks and the blockchain. I had a cybersecurity expert in a session I did in Tampa for Women Who Code, and she was trying to explain an analogy between the security of blockchain and security that a lot of people recognize, which is two-factor authentication. That's where you sign up for a service and then you get verified either by email or phone number if it's legit. Well, she said you take that, you multiply it times the number of blocks in the blockchain, and that's how secure it is. So it's really secure is the bottom line there. So that gives you kind of an idea on that. Now on the Algorand standard assets, what we see here is the ability to create an asset. So you see things like the ability to create your own native tokens. You can do administrator functions. You have asset spam protection, as well as residing on layer 1, 2, and then fungible tokens. In-game points, stable coins, these are all example of fungible tokens. So each of these are identical to each other, right? Every stable coin is worth the same amount at the same time. And then cryptocurrencies fall into this category. Restricted fungible tokens would be like securities, things that could be clawed back, government issued fiat. Now, non-fungible tokens are basically things that might appear to be the same. Like, for example, in real estate, you have, say, a house on one street has, 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and then another street has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, but the price is different because there's some intangible things that are associated. So each one's unique, but they maybe fall into a class that might be the same. So those are non-fungible tokens, and things like certification collectibles, they all fall into that category. Real estate ownership, regulatory certifications. Then you got crypto tokens. Like, so let's take a look at AlgoDesk here. So this is a tool by the community that was created. So I'm going to show you how to create an asset real visually, real easy. What you would do is you copy this off for later use. This is going to be your mnemonic. This is your private key, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But basically, if you had a private key, you could paste it in here and use that. But let's go ahead and get started like fresh here, like you might do the first time, and then we'll go ahead and create an asset. So here we'll go ahead and put in, we'll put a pizza thing in here, and we'll go with P. Russ is the name, total supply. You can have a decimal point on there. So this would be 10,000.1 decibels. You have the ability to put a URL, a meta hash, and then you can see the defaults here for the various functions. A manager address, freeze address, reserve address, clawback address, and then you go ahead and create that. Now, when you go ahead and create that, what you'll see is the ability to then query it and take a look at this. So it's waiting for the transaction to confirm. And once this gets confirmed, and then what will happen is we'll see this right down here at the bottom is our new asset that we just created. A little bit further, there it is, Pizza Russ. And then you can see the manager. So what can you do with this? Well, you can do things like send assets, modify assets. You can freeze, unfreeze, and revoke as well. And if you wanted to take a look at this, what you can do is open up the asset, and what it will do is bring this asset right into the Explorer. Each asset has an asset ID, which you can see in the URL line. And this is the Algo Explorer, one of the few Explorers that are available as well. So this is really cool. You can actually click on any one of these addresses, and you can then see the exact transactions for that particular address. And then you can see the balances, the rewards. You get, reward, assets, or with having, the assets on the blockchain and the nodes on the blockchain. And then also you can see here, we've got different environments. You got testnet, mainnet, betanet. These are our 3 different networks. Mainnet, for example, always has the price of the algo up there. I like bringing it up just to see what the day's price is. And so this is a really cool, this is a really cool scenario. So let's get back over to the deck here. And there's also another browser here, Goal Seeker, which is kind of interesting. So you can search by block, address, transaction, TXID, and you have all the recent transactions, as well as, again, you have mainnet and testnet available here. Then also we got Algo Signer. Now, this is a wallet based solution for a browser Chrome extension. And I've got this installed up here. So what I can do here is bring up Algo Signer. And I can see I'm wired up to testnet, mainnet here. And now I'm going to bring up my demo account. and I could add a new asset, and I could type in the, what was it, P Russ, I think. I don't know if I look at all those, you could see the, what was it? What was it? Oh, it was, there we go. So we got some items there. We can go ahead and click on it, or you can verify all the different ones that begin with Pizza Russ, and you can see here the asset number, and that's really what the differentiator. That's the only unique thing among assets. Assets can have the same name, they can have the same short name, but the thing that makes them unique is the asset ID. So whenever you're sharing an asset with someone, you want to give them the ID to make sure they have the right one that they're getting. All right, and what you could do is transactions here. So I could take a transaction. Let me bring up, all right, over here. All right, I can send some, some algos in the send. So I could say, I'm going to send one algo from my pizza account, and we're going to paste in another one here in my Xfer, and then do a send. And let's go ahead and do this, and there it is. So now the transaction went to that account. I could copy that off, go query it, look at it in the Explorer, or just go right back to the account. So that was actually done. So very nice tool, and there's a whole API that's available for that wallet. So what is a wallet? For those that are brand new, it's basically a collection of private keys. That's all it is. And it's, you know, that is the thing you want to be aware of when you're building solutions, is where do I store the private keys? You know, you do not want the keys, you know, exposed on like REST API calls and stuff like that. You really want to use the SDKs to keep all that stuff local to the nodes when you go to do that. So we'll talk, we'll illustrate that more as we go on. One of my favorite topics here, again, I kind of alluded to that, was atomic transfers. All must succeed or all will fail. So the scenario here on the right, where you got an image, you got person A wants to send 50 algos to person B. In return, person B will send a concert ticket to person A. Well, you want all of this to happen or none of it. You just don't want to send 50 algos and be hanging out there waiting for to get the concert ticket. If it, you know, maybe what you got to do is you got to, you know, do this whole thing in order to get the transaction to complete. It's easy and secure, and up to 16 transactions can be done in an atomic transfer. This guarantees exchange of goods, even between, you know, accounts that don't know each other, right? Lack of trust is a big problem in today's world for doing traditional transactions. You know, you go buy something on a Craigslist or whatever, and it's a crapshoot whether you're going to get, you know, ripped off or not, and because you just don't know the person you're dealing with. This helps alleviate that problem. The beautiful thing is it can be combined with other Algorand technology. You can combine this with a smart contract. You can combine this with assets. So it's very, very flexible to build solutions. And examples of atomic transfers are basically simplified, expedited settlements, efficient matched funding, reduced counterparty risk, as well as enabling any multilateral trade. Circular trades, group payments, combining with other Algorand, ASA, and smart contracts, instant settlement for complex multi-party asset transactions. So a lot of uses here in distributed payments. The next thing to talk about is Algorand smart contracts, right? Transactions, execute approval language, and contract logic in TiE. And then also what you have is the Python and enabled compiler. You have the ability to do that with PyTeal. So there, those that know Python, you can use Python to compile out and generate TiE. TiE stands for Transaction Execution Approval Language. It's an assembler-like language, Turing complete, you know, where you would have step by step, it takes a look at what you got in the stack. And if you end up with a non-zero value, it's going to be, true. And then it will go ahead and execute. So return true or false. So if it's true, it it'll be able to sign and send funds, and if not, you won't be able to. As simple as that. So why is it in like an assembly language? Well, performance, right? You got to think of this. Performance is a very key concern, and there's nothing more performant than an assembly like language. And there are tools that you can use to help facilitate and build these with. We have lots of templates. Number one. Number two, you can use something like Python. All right, two types of smart contracts: stateless and stateful. You can approve spending transactions and also have global and local storage. You can combine with other Algorand technologies. You have atomic transfers, global assets. You can combine stateless and stateful contracts. So smart contract values, well, in the financial industry, you got the ability to do things like trade finances, clearing and settlement, financial data recording, digital identity. These are all types of solutions that are really great for smart contracts. In the DeFi space, you've got the ability to set up escrow accounts and payments, credit and lending, and stable coins. It's no wonder DeFi is exploding, as these are very, very popular types of solutions that you need, or at least parts of the solutions that you need, and a lot of the applications that you build today. All right. So Algorand accounts, let's give you the 101 on this. You have a standard account, and then you also have a multi-sig account, and you also have a logic account. So what's the difference? Well, standard account has one pair of private and public. It has one private and public key that are a cryptographic key pair. A multi-sig account could have maybe 5 accounts in the multi-sig. And what you do is you specify a threshold of how many of those need to sign off on a particular transaction in order to be broadcast out to the blockchain network. So if you have 5 in the account and you want to say, okay, at least 3 of you need to sign off on this, your threshold would be 3. So you get 3 signatures, then that's good to go. Logic sig account, again, if it returns true, it's going to sign it. If it returns false, it's not going to sign it, and it's not going to work. The reason I went through that is because you now have the ability to rekey accounts, and I don't think there's any other blockchains that have this capability. Like, what happens if I grow and I have a single account and I want to go to a multi-sig account? Well, up until we had this feature, you had to create a brand new account, and then you had to migrate and everybody over, and it was a pain. So what we do now is take this the public key, by the way, is something you want everybody to know, because that's how you're going to receive money, right? That's how you're going to receive funds. You want something to send you to. You say, oh, yeah, here's my public key. Go ahead and send me some dough. And then the private key, on the other hand, you want to keep in your wallet. You want to keep that secure. You don't want anybody to have it, because that's used for what? For spending. So if you've got, assets in your wallet, you want to be very protective of that key. And if you lose that key, guess what? All bets are off. Remember the days where you put, money under the mattress, right, to store? Sometimes good ideas come back full circle. That's what we're talking about here. So there are ways to, secure that. There's I've got a nano ledger, which I recommend. That's probably the most popular way to do it. It looks like it looks like this. I don't know if I can see this. It looks like almost like a USB stick, but it doesn't plug into your computer. It's not connected to the internet at all, which is one very key feature you want to look at. Writing it down, writing your, that key phrase like I showed before, just writing on a piece of paper, storing it in your box. That's another, possible way. So, you can read up on it, but there's different ways to do that. But the idea is you do want to store that key. You are the only one responsible for that, which is kind of good, because it gives you some security knowing that you're the only one that has that, so you can't be ripped off. So it's a cryptographic key pair, and then rekeying, what it does is it separates the private and public key and assigns it to other authorized addresses to approve the transaction. So it's very, very simple now. You can see in a rekeyed account in this green box, you have an authorized address now. That's different than the address itself. So you're saying, okay, this other account can do the spending. is authorized to sign off on an account. So gives you a lot of flexibility now in your transactions. All right, we're going to end this section here with two scenarios, all right, combining layer one features. So this is a voting scenario. So you got a commission account with a spending token. You're going to wrap this all atomically, this whole thing. So either this whole thing works or none of it works. So you take that token, you get it, and then you're going to be able to vote for candidate A. And this is going to give you a ability to go through this voting smart contract. Is it legit? Has this token already been attempted to be used? Is it verified? And if so, then it's going to increment the candidate A vote total, and that might be stored in global state through this smart contract out on the blockchain. So what you have is in the stateful smart, where there are two types, right? I mentioned before, just to recap, you got stateless and then you got stateful. The stateful is the one that will allow you to store both global state as well as local state. Global state would be to the entire blockchain has access to it. Local state is just at the account level. So that account is responsible for that particular state or counters or whatever you got. Then the second scenario is crowdfunding, right? Very popular solution. This is where you might have an invention, you try to raise funds, and if you raise the funds, then everybody is happy. And if you don't, everybody gets their money back. So crowdfunding escrow account would be set up, right? So you have a stateless smart contract, perhaps saying, okay, either I reach it or I don't. Again, all atomically grouped, payment from the escrow to user one. And then the user one claims the escrow funds, and then the crowdfunding, the smart contract is in place. So here you got stateless and the stateful combined in this scenario. All right, I'm going to pause for a second, grab a sip of water. Philippe, if you got anything for me, now's the time to give it to me.
Not yet. So still there are no questions, but I am trying to provide some additional links to the stuff. So I believe that our audience is engaged.
That's great. Thank you so much. And feel free to ping him, So, take advantage of this hour. You got any questions, go ahead and put them in there, because this is, can be confusing sometimes, especially if you're brand new. And, but hopefully we're kind of getting there in terms of explaining, what blockchain is, how it's used. And now we're going to get into developing. This is the best part of the session. All right. So let's go ahead and continue here. And first of all, we recently got an award. The developer portal won a Debbie's Award, Best Innovation in Blockchain for the product on our blockchain developer portal. And it's nice when you get recognized by your industry peers. And so let's just take a quick look at it. You can see we got tutorials, articles, and forums. And what we see here is you've got a lot of new, here's one here, creating online game marketplace to buy and sell games. And then you got installing out, we got Windows 10, you can install nodes on now using WSL2. So these are a little banner of the new stuff going on. And then also down below, you've got the latest tutorials, the latest solutions, and the latest articles, always being updated on this particular page. Also, you can click on the left for tutorials. You can do filters on this. So you could say, okay, I'm just interested in all the Python related solutions. So that would come up right there. The documentation is really where you want to start with. And this is, you want to go to the start building. And what that does is it expands these steps right here. The first three are very important, and it doesn't take that long to do it. You set up a workspace, you connect to a node, and then you do your first transaction. Then you got building applications. This gets into the smart contracts feature as well, but this is really how to get started. And some really nice examples for if you go to like the first transaction. For example, you come down to Python, Java, Go. These are the 4 SDKs that are supported by Algorand. Now there's getting to be quite a few more that the community has done. There's a C# SDK out there, Rust, and PHP recently too, this past week. So a lot of goodness there. And then also on these at the typically at the bottom you'll see examples of where the source code is. So if you click on that link, this brings you up to the doc GitHub repository. V2 is the one you want to go to. That's the latest version. And there you can see the 4 examples. So if you want to bring up the JavaScript example here, you can see all the code behind it. And what we're seeing here is you have what you want to do is you got to put the token and the server and the port number. This gives you access to your token. In this case, this is going to be pointing to what's called the sandbox. And this is a great developer tool that easily creates a node and you can talk to it. You don't have to do it yourself. And it's done through a Docker instance. So it's very easy to set up. You just clone the sandbox repository, and then you you install Docker and you're pretty much up and running. So very, very useful. All right, so those are some of the pieces on our site. Give you the lay of the land in terms of networks. We've got testnet and mainnet on the right, and we have betanet on the left. So testnet and mainnet are always mirrored to be the same protocol. So if you if something works on testnet, it'll work in mainnet. That's the idea. Betanet is used to introduce new protocol level features. And then you have private networks. Private networks actually run on your personal machine. And it's used, like a good use case for that is, for example, if you are using Betanet to test out a new feature, Betanet changes often. And so you won't get maybe 2 consistent tests, because maybe you'd be under one version of the protocol in one, and then you retested it, and then you're on the new version. So what you want to do is basically you take a snapshot of that Betanet, and now that's your private network. It has its own blocks it's building and going along the way. Also, a private network is a default now for Sandbox. So when you bring it up, you're actually doing a private network, and that's useful because there's another feature I'm going to be talking about called Indexer that facilitates querying the blockchain, and that's built right into the private network Sandbox version. So, and that's because it starts at block 0, right? It starts at block 1, the Genesis block, and it'll populate the indexer as it's building. And you could do that on an existing fully archived node too, but it takes a long time to do that. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now the nodes, I refer to a node a lot. What really, what are these and how do you build them? So you can, these are different flavors, okay? You can create and run your own. You can run it on, you can do it on Mac, Ubuntu, other Linux distros, including like a Raspberry Pi and Windows now, as you saw as well. And this used to take several hours to sync if you do your own. But now there is a feature called Fast Catch-up, and you'll be caught up within minutes, which is really great. Then you get to PureStake and RAN Labs, and they provide API services. Those were the 2 vendors that created the explorers that we showed you, the Algo Explorer and the other one by PureStake. And these are fully indexed and fully archived nodes. And you can access these from SDK code on the platforms that do not have nodes. You get into Sandbox and Docker, not for production. It's a snapshot right from the current node. Although I say not for production, but you can spin up a Sandbox pointing to any one of our networks, including mainnet. So if you did have to do some testing or something like that utilizes Sandbox, you can do that. Keep in mind it's from forward only and out, not prior. So that's how Sandbox works. So that's pretty cool stuff. So those are your options there on the nodes. Sandbox 2.0, the more details here. Like I said, how do you get started? And these are all in the README file. Once you clone this Sandbox down, you install Docker, clone the Sandbox, and then this defaults to the private network, which I said includes the indexer. And then for testnet use, you'd say .sandbox up testnet, and you're running testnet. The biggest difference between the 2 of those is the fact that private network currently does not have like an explorer that you can visually explore, like an address or a transaction, you would need to either use a command line or SDK or REST API tools like Postman to query any kind of results. Whereas if you start up with testnet, you have all those tools available, but you don't necessarily have an indexer. If you did need an indexer to do queries, what you could do is point to the API providers like PureStake and Rand Labs and use their fully indexed indexer. So there's a lot of different ways, and I think I'm going to be working with Northeastern University. I'm going to teach a first class on a course there. And I've suggested that they build this browser, for a private network. You'll get to learn everything, that's going on. So we may see that sooner rather than later there too in the private network. It's always in a state of flux. There's always a lot of community involvement, a lot of new updates, and things are just going in the right direction from a developer standpoint, with Algorand. We also have something we call developer office hours. We do these every other week on Tuesdays, and we have various topics. There's one here on Sandbox we recently did, and that's the YouTube channel it's on. And when you bring up the README file, this is what it looks like. You have these are the endpoints for the different daemons. So the first one here you see is all A's and the 401. That's for the Algo D daemon. That's where you really are going to do most of your work. That's the one that has the accounts, the transactions, and all that. Candy, you probably won't use that much. This is our, online wallet, good for like wallet testing, but not really, practical, in my opinion, for solutions, because most people today for wallets, they have it on their phone. Their devices is where they keep the wallet. So, but there is a daemon for that. And then indexer is the other one we talked about, where you can query the blockchain. You can see that would be localhost, and 8980 is a port number. Right, and that's accessible once again if you just do Sandbox up and you got the private network. And then we got all these SDKs we talked about. This has the ability to do standalone functions like create accounts, and then you also have the ability to manipulate account mnemonics. You can do transactions, sign transactions, multi-sig. This is all associated with it. And then that would be with Go, Python, Java, JavaScript. There is the GitHub link for the C# SDK. This has been fully updated to version 2, as well as our SDK, the most recent version. So you're good to go on all the features of development with that. And also install and instantiate SDK guide. So this is a great page to go to. If you take a look at this, this is where we've got, the NPM. This tells you how to install the SDK for each one of the languages. In this case, also how to verify that you've installed that SDK. You've got indexer, you've got the Algo D coming up here, Python, and how to instantiate it from your code. And that's the first stumbling block you have as a developer after you've installed the SDK. Okay, how do I start using the SDK in the client? All right, so in the client aspect, right, that's going to be all basically your REST API calls. And then the SDK itself may have standalone functions in it too, like creating accounts. Basically, anything that has a private key is not going to go across the wire. Anything that requires the private key is done locally on that node. And that's really the bottom line there. So that's pretty good stuff there. So I did want to share that because that's a great link. Also, you need to have funds in your account for doing transactions, right? There's going to be a transaction fee anytime you want to transact assets from one account to another. And so there's we have dispensers to do that for BetaNet and testnet. So we just paste in the account you want to send from in each of those, and we'll populate a certain number of algos on those two networks on BetaNet and testnet. Creating accounts, let's just take a quick look at this. We're going to do this with, I'm going to show you this in Java using the Java SDK first, right here. So I've got the ability here to create accounts. I'm just going to run this. And you can see down below in the output here, it's going to start printing off the addresses. So this would be the public key, and this phrase would be the private key that you would be generating. And you do that in the code simply by creating a new account. And again, this is in Java. The other SDKs are very similar. And here we're going to get the address for the public key from that account. Here we're going to get the mnemonic from that. Very, very simple. So I continue executing this. And then what I would do is I would take any, these accounts, and what you got to do is the next thing is you got to populate these with funds. So I'd go over to you want to go over to the dispenser, and you just paste in that account, right? And then you can see you've got a transaction. That was a success. And if you want to verify, you just go over to one of the browsers, paste it in, and then you can see the transaction. This is how it's all real time. You can see 100 algos then were transferred to that account. And it's really nice to get this kind of immediate response back. It's really a luxury for blockchain developers to get that kind of response time. And then how about, creating an account visually instead of code? We got a great tool here to show you. This is done by the community. I'm going to bring it on so you can see it here. There it is. This is called Algo DEA, D-E-A, and a tremendous tool. And what you could do here is you could just right mouse click, and there is an Algorand number, fly out menu choice. And let's say you wanted to create that new account here. You hit the create new account. Let's call this Rusty. So my close friends call me Rusty. And then if I do a list of those accounts, up it comes right here. And you can see, okay, rather than referring to it as ZUK, whatever, I can refer to it as Rusty. And I could fetch the balances. And there they are. Well, you notice this one here doesn't have any, right? So that's the one you want to copy the address. You can also copy off the mnemonic if you need that for whatever purposes for development environment. And then that's copied. Then you do the same thing. You go out to the dispenser and dispense funds to that. I think he's making a choice in an upgrade where if you right mouse click, it'll have dispense funds on there, and it'll automatically copy that into the box, right, that you're out there. So look for that one to come up. But that's how easy it is. And this is a full featured IDE. This is what I would download first, right after you get set up is Algo DEA. And it just makes things so easy. And for example, you want to do a stateful, stateless contract, right? Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to generate what's called a logic sig. And we're going to do, there's two flavors. I can do a contract account, which just says, okay, this is going to return true or false. If it returns true, it's good to go. Let's sign it off. Delegated signature is very similar, where you have a return true or false, but also it needs a signature to sign off on. So what I could say is, okay, I want Alice to sign off on this one. And what I could do is say, okay, I'm going to create this account and create a logic sig. And now down below, you can see I've got a logic sig. And what is it a logic sig for? This is the TiE code I talked about. And what this is doing, it's a very simple one. It's saying, okay, if the receiver is this address, which is the WCM address, that's Bob, and the amount is greater than or equal to 10 algos, this is micro algos listed there, then the transaction is going to be good. And that's the logic sig that we're going to do this. So down below, you can see the logic sig was indeed created, and there it is up here in this part of the IDE. And then what I'm going to do is go down to send a transaction with this logic sig. So Alice is the one here. We got in here first with the IIB. The receiver, now if I pick a different receiver, like Rusty, for example, and not Bob, this thing should fail. We're going to try to send 10, or if you try to send 20, it would also fail. So I'm going to do it down here, and it's going to tell you right down over here. You know, this thing failed. Threshold settings, and there's logic say, and it gives you more information, and it tells you it failed. So it's doing its job. It compared it. Now, if I do this thing again, and I go over here and take this transaction, and I want to send another one, I'm going to do it from there, but this time the receiver is going to match up with the logic, and we're going to choose Bob's account. And now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to hit OK, and then boom, there it goes. And now it successfully sent that transaction. There's the transaction information, and everybody's happy. Also, I want to call your attention to the upper right corner here. These are where you can establish the nodes. We do have a command line tool goal, and this would be if you had a node locally, you would just hit that and add that information where it's at, and that's your data folder. But then you also have nodes like you can have the pure stake testnet. You've got local testnet archive. You've got hackathons. Pure stake API. So, and each one's got like a flavor for testnet, for mainnet. This really makes it easy for testing. I mean, everything you're seeing here is visual. This is an absolutely phenomenal tool, and we got a lot of other tools. So let's go over a few more of those in this session. All right. I'd look at a little bit more background on some of the things I showed you here between stateless and smart contracts. So the stateless smart contract gives you a logic account, and any transaction can be sent from this account will be verified by the predefined logic. This is good for escrow style payments, split payments, also hash time lock contracts, for example. Logic signatures, this is, with the delegated authority, you can do that for recurring payments. That's the demo I just showed you. And then you get into stateful smart contract life cycles. This is the one where you can facilitate storage on the blockchain as well as local at the account. Well, you do need to opt in first to participate with the local storage. So there's a create application function, and then you need to, anybody that wants to use that needs to opt into using that application. So you can't blindly send this application to anybody. The no op is actually calling the application. So you're going to execute it. And then you have the ability to update. So this is another function that you have, and delete the application. You can close out TiE, logic sig must be true. You can clear the state, always will be clear. And then you have more information on our site on this slide. You got the Python library. You've got the, in Python, creating a hash time lock contract. And then you have compile TiE will compile that and generate the TiE like you saw in the example that we just showed, which you have right there. How does this whole thing work together? Well, you create the new application, maybe in PyTeal or not, but you want to compile that, right? And that's going to end up giving you your source. Then you take the source and you need to compile that into binary, and that is going to be facilitated by various calls. Like you want an application create the application call, right? And that's used to create an application. You're going to take in what they call an approval program. That's your logic. And then there's a clear program that's used when you go to clear the application at the end if you want to close it out. So these are, this is kind of like a typical flow. In terms of debugging, you have three things that you want to consider when you're debugging, right? You have accounts, signed transactions, and approval program source. You got the dry run request that gets built from those three things. And then you have the ability to debug with TiE debug, and this will bring up the ability to do Chrome inspect. And then you could step through each line of the code and then analyze your stack on each step of the way. So great tool for debugging. The indexer, you've got the Go SDK, you got the Job SDK, and all these SDKs can feed off of this REST API for the indexer. What is indexer? Well, on the right, you have the blockchain. You got the AlgoD process, and this is going to feed off of that AlgoD process and store it into a PostgreSQL database. So it makes sense. You want to do queries, use the database to do the queries again. Don't use a blockchain to do. It's going to take forever, right, to scan millions of blocks. This is all indexed, and it really makes it fast to go ahead and do your queries. So that's the indexer, and it's great, and you can build your own. I built my own. That'll take several days because you have to do it from a fully archived index node, and that could be like 130 gig. It's a very large scenario. And then you can use the service as well. You don't have to build your own. PureStake, Rand Labs both have them. And now you can use the Sandbox private network. So any kind of testing there you want to do at Sandbox is good. You also have your own Sandbox, and you can actually they have a run in Postman, a link right there. And you can just hit the run in Postman, and it'll just go ahead and bring up Postman, which is you know, where you can run your REST API calls very, very easily. Now, you can see you've got the developer newsletter that you can sign up for. I would encourage that as a homework assignment. Just go out to the developer portal, developer.algorand.org. There's a white newsletter button there at the bottom. And then you could do, like, take a look at the wallet, download the wallet from the App Store, Google Play, Algorand wallet. This has Nano X support, the one I showed you, Bluetooth support. And then you've got also developer settings on it for testnet and mainnet. So if you want to verify things in your own wallet, you could do that out testnet. And it will rekey in the app itself through the ledger. And then also, you know, you have asset support too. Great community projects. Go out to the community page, which is under the docs at this bottom link, and you can see all the great community that's being built with all these great products. And then also some of them I want to call out here are Reach. It's the easiest and safest way to build applications. Well, what is Reach? Well, it's a programming language. You can do it in JavaScript, and it is a compiler. It'll outputs to any chain, so you can actually build with the same solution, a solution for Ethereum as well as Algorand. This is definitely worth looking into. Go through the tutorial, and you should be up and running. They have announced more language support. They announced Go, I think, and Rust, and another one I can't remember. But you have the ability now to build solutions in those languages and go to multiple blockchains simultaneously. It's a really great concept. It's kind of like what we did with applications. You can use tools like React Native or Xamarin to build solutions for iOS, Android, Windows all simultaneously. And so this is the same kind of approach. So this is something to check into for sure. AlgoSigner, I showed you this, but there's also a API that you can use to build solutions, web-based solutions that talk to it. We have a very good developer office hours coming up on another alternative. I showed you AlgoDia on Tuesday. I'll talk about that in a second. And that's more along the lines of what to do with private keys and how to use those in the solutions that you build. AlgoDia, great IDE. Again, just download that real quick. That'll be one of your first downloads. Here's the link to do it. And we also did a session on this. I think it was last week. And so go out to the Algorand YouTube portal, and you can look. That should be up to the top as a recent post. So I did want to call your attention to the Algorand Foundation rewards program. This is where you have the developer rewards program with a lot of incentives, like, you know, Philippe is going to get a little bit of cash for helping out today. You know, it's great. You know, this is what it's all about, you know, are these rewards. And this is how we're building the program very quickly. And then the algos are going up in value, which is even better. So it's even more enticing. And then you got developer ambassador rewards, or DevAmps. If you want to write a post to our developer portal, you know, take a look at that. Grant programs, you know, lots of money here that's going out to folks that have great ideas. And then also maybe there's a list of grant recipients, those that have received it. We're looking for Algorand scouts as well as influencers in the industry, and some information on security there too. Over 500 ambassadors now in 66 countries. You've got video resources again at youtube.com/Algorand. Here's one on TiE, another one on proof of stake, 9-minute and 5-minute video. The source code that I showed you is available at these locations, either at the docs or the hackathon, or there's another smart contract deck example under the Algorand smart contracts repository as well. So in summary, we covered a lot of ground here in today, and we covered, the blockchain use cases as well as blockchain basics. We did the layer 1 features with, Algorand, standard assets, smart contracts. You've got what was the other one? Atomic transfers, right? That glue things together, as well as a lot of great developer tools we looked at. We've got a good number of developer tools from Algorand itself that we support, and a very, very thriving, growing community that's really doing great and building a lot of great products for developers and supporting those as well. So it's really heartwarming to see that. This is the session I wanted to call your attention to, coming up on the March 9th. It's called My Algo Wallet, and the folks from Rand Labs that did the Algo Explorer will be delivering this. I would highly recommend attending this. This is at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And just go out to algorand.com/developers to sign up for that. And the next one is to be determined in the content, but that'll be on the 23rd. Highly recommend watching this one. This is going to, a lot of the code you look at is going to have like the private keys embedded just for tutorial purposes, not for production purposes. So what do you do with the private keys when you're building a final solution? You want to come to this session to find the answer to that question on how to do that. So very, very key, important session coming up on next week. Also, take a shot of this, take a look at this, and Felipe, if you can paste this Discord link into the chat channel, I'll be very appreciative. This is growing. We got over 3,000 members now on Discord. A lot of interaction, a lot of support. You got a question, go to Discord, post it out there. We also have a forum too at forum.algorand.com. But really, this is the one that's really growing on top. So I encourage you all on your homework assignment list to do this one as well and go out there. Lots of great resources are in this deck. All the tutorials on maybe getting going to VS Code if you're new to that. I did some tutorials on that. There's an Algo Signer tutorial. There's all the community tools. Algo Studio didn't talk about that. That's a great thing for deployment and building up your environment. Algo Dia we looked at. You got Algorand Playground, another great tool. Algo Desk I showed you. Creating that asset up front, and then you got where to sign up for those dev office hours. All right, so what I've got, I think that is the current. Did I update that slide? I think I did. Yep, 38. That's the one. I'm going to end here, and if you got any questions, Philippe, you got any outstanding questions we can answer real quick? Otherwise, we're going to be done. No, she's shaking your head.
No questions. Everything is clear. Yeah. So I posted the links.
Cool.
So there are links to the Office Developer Hour. So as you mentioned, I encourage everyone to join. It's always high quality content. So it's really good to follow what is happening in the Algorand world. And of course, the Discord channel is always good in case you have some questions in the future regarding some development bugs or whatever stuff you are facing, any difficulties. The community is really active there.
Well, thank you for helping out. I really appreciate it. And everybody, there's a feedback session. I'd be very appreciative if you can take a picture of that and fill out a little bit of a feedback for me. We're always trying to make these sessions better with more content, and hopefully that hit the mark. So I want to thank you very much. I guess we're done, unless there's any closing remarks from the organizers.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Russell, for finding your time in the early morning and empowering us with all the knowledge. Yeah, I hope the students can directly reach and get information from the links shared by Mr. Philip, right?
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, David.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Jenny, can you? Hello. Yeah. Can you share the recording link with us, with all of us in that group or TiE University mail? Huh? The recording link.
1 second. I'm sharing it here as well.
No, not the YouTube thing. The Zoom thing you would have got now. Zoom record.